Today's meeting of the Municipal Code Enforcement Board is called to order on Wednesday, July 26, 2023. Welcome, everyone. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated.
Chair,
Yes.
before you all get started, there is an error on the agenda that I need to make everyone aware of.
Okay.
Item 4.10 will be heard today. It's marked as continued, but it will be heard today, and what should have been continued is item 4.11. My apologies.
No problem.
Missed it by one.
All right.
Thank you.
Agendas of today's meeting are on the wall at the entrance to council chambers. Please remember to turn off all your cell phones. The Municipal Code Enforcement Board consists of 7 members who are appointed by the City Council. We serve voluntarily. It is this board's intention to promote, protect, and improve the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Clearwater by providing this equitable, effective, and inexpensive method of enforcing certain codes within the city. The board considers new business items in 2 parts. First, the violation, then affirmative relief. Formal rules of evidence do not apply. Each side is limited to 15 minutes. The board may grant additional time. All proceedings will be conducted in a calm, civil manner. Individuals who conduct themselves otherwise will be asked to leave. If necessary, they will be escorted from the chambers. Now I ask all who plan to speak rise and be sworn in by the clerk.
Do you swear to affirm to tell the truth throughout your entire testimony? I do. Thank you.
Our first order of business is to review and approve the minutes of last month's meeting. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Is there anyone here to speak on items that are not on today's agenda? Sir, will you come forward? Step to the podium and state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to speak on this subject.
Terry Flass, 1647 Dartmouth Street, house fire. When I left here the last time, I was under the impression that if I fulfilled the agreed upon conditions, that all violations would be fulfilled. However, in talking at the beginning of June, talking to Jason Cantrell on a related matter, he indicated that the unsafe condition would not be fulfilled. Now, the conditions I had stated was that I would leave the house unoccupied. I'm assuming that the unsafe means unsafe for occupancy. 3 things that Jason said he cited for violation was the ceiling, the electrical, and the plumbing. I assumed that when I fixed the roof, the ceiling would be fixed. The electricity is turned off, the meter's pulled. There is no electricity. As far as the plumbing goes, the water's turned off. There is no plumbing. So I thought that if I fixed up the outside like we agreed upon and would not live in it, that there would be no unsafe condition existing.
Okay.
Because my question would be, in such a case, to whom or to what is it unsafe for?
Okay. I would suggest that he would have to get with Mr. Cantrell, the inspector.
Well, I got with Mr. Cantrell and he said I'd come back and see you.
Come back to see us.
Because I was also in the impression that the board had like the final say, that what you said went.
That probably is true, but since we do not have it on our calendar today, I can't really speak on whether, it's right or wrong. Is that correct?
Yeah, can I ask, what do we do in a situation like that? Anybody know?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'll speak to it.
Okay.
Jared Simpson with the legal department. My position is that the ordinance does not distinguish between occupied, unoccupied as far as the safety goes. We could take a closer look at specific issues and try to continue working with the gentleman. There's nothing on the agenda related to this property today, so the board really doesn't have anything to
Yeah, I
take
called too
action
late.
on
When I
today.
called, it said it was too late.
But we can work with him to try to see where we could put something on in the future. I mean, I don't know if he's out, I've assumed, because I am somewhat familiar with this case and the situation, I think he's outside of the time frame to request a rehearing.
Okay.
Our code does allow a rehearing request where if he disagreed or he thought that the board might have missed something when they first heard it, he could ask for a rehearing and come back in front of the board and present that new information. We can look at the timeframes for that. I think we're probably outside of that. At this point, it's most likely that this case won't come back to the board until the city staff determines that it's in compliance, and we're talking about a lien reduction or doing something with the lien that has been recorded at that point. That would be when the board could address it and take a look at whether or not there was some kind of miscommunication between the city and the citizen, and you could take that into account when you're addressing what the ultimate fine amount ends up being.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Yes.
From my experience in dealing with some of these as a contractor, it would seem that there's a lack of understanding about what compliance actually means in terms of the safety compliance that the inspector's looking for. So I would recommend that he contact the inspector and say, what exactly do you want me to do to comply with, I mean, what does the law say, or what does the statute or the code say, and what is compliance, so that misunderstanding could be cleared up, and then that would point, maybe lead toward the solution of that.
Can I add something to that? The gentleman seems like he's gone back and forth. If the code inspector doesn't give you a satisfactory answer, can he get it so that he's going to one person and not getting bounced back and forth, whether it be Mr. Simpson or with a code inspector or somebody, so he can get a definitive answer?
Well, I went up the list to Dana Root, Kevin Garnett, and Gina Clayton.
Yeah, so clearly he's going all over the place. Can we give him one person to talk to?
The individuals that he's named, that is the chain of command within that department. I mean,
And you're not getting a satisfactory answer from, for answer?
Not as far as I'm concerned, because I can't see it being unsafe for whom or what.
All I'm saying is let him have somebody that he can get a definitive answer, say this is black or white.
well.
And it's not that I have new information to
Building
present.
official for the city, he would be the definitive person.
And you've talked to Mr., who was it?
He said Kevin Garnett, but I believe he meant Kevin Garriott, who is the.
And have you spoken to Kevin Garriott?
And again, they were saying they weren't familiar with him, that's why they suggested I come back here.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to suggest, Mr. Flask, is that you talk with Mr. Garriott again, and if you need to get with, was it Mr. Cantrell, the inspector? Get with him to find out exactly what needs to be done as far as...
Well, they want me to repair the whole thing.
Okay. Well, get with him, and then, know exactly what you need to be done for the property, and then try to get into compliance with that, and then we'll...
Well, I disagree with his assessment, though.
Mr. Chair, our assistant building official, Dana Root, he's offered to speak with them in the hallway again to hopefully clarify. And, as far as disagreeing about it, I mean, there may be, depending on what it is, some avenue for appealing to the building board if there's some kind of official building code disagreement. But other than that, he's going to need to speak to an attorney about, a private attorney, as far as what his options would be to appeal the city's decisions on these sort of things.
Okay. Mr. Flask, do you understand what Mr. Simpson said? Dana is right back there, and he's willing to talk to you to try to help you understand a little bit more of this. And if we can get it resolved, we'll sure get it resolved for you.
Yeah, because today was the deadline, and again, I talked to them in beginning of June, and I came here at the end of June to talk to you, found out the meeting had been canceled.
Well,
So now I'm 2 months behind because of this.
anything that has accrued as far as fines and liens or whatever, we'll address that when you come back before
Well,
us.
they technically start accruing today, I
Okay,
guess, or tomorrow.
we'll address that whenever you get back in front of us.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Does anyone else have anything to speak about that's not on the agenda today? Sir, you step forward. Name and address for the record, please.
Hello. My name is Wayne Carruthers, and I live in Clearwater. And I'm here today.
Your address, Mr. Crothers?
I'm sorry?
Your address?
1475 Excalibur Drive, Clearwater, 33764. 30 years I lived there.
Former chairman.
Anyway, I'm back today. I used to sit where you are. I did that for 9 years. I was chairman, so I know what you face every day. I turned out right when COVID hit. So I know COVID changed a lot of things. And as a concerned citizen now, it's given me pause to think. And I learned a lot here from this gentleman, from Dan. I learned a lot from Nicole and Andy. I don't see Andy here anymore.
I got new Andy.
Oh, oh, you're prettier. Andy was a good guy. I learned.
He's
He's
still
still
with us,
with
he's
us.
temporary.
Oh, you're temporary.
Yeah, he just couldn't make it.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Anyway, what brings me here today is, as a concerned citizen, I see things differently now than when I was on there. On there, I heard complaints. Now, I drive around town, I see things. What I want to say to you is, in my opinion, this is the most important board that the city has. Because if we don't get it right here, or find inspectors, we don't sparkle anymore, you know? And I learned a lot. I learned a lot. I appreciate what you all do. That's basically why I came down here today. I'm trying to learn more as I go. So I figure if I come here and show my face, I can learn. And anyway, that's all I had to say. I thank you very much.
Thank you for your service on this board.
Thank you for your time and your service, yes.
Thank you, Lance.
You're very welcome.
Thanks, Wayne.
Yes, sir.
Does anyone else have anything, ma'am? Step forward, state your name and your address for the record, please.
Marita Lynch, 1618 Tuscola Road. I've lived there for 30 years, and there's a house across the street from me, 1631, that I've watched over the years go. It's a sad situation, and I've watched things go from bad to worse. It's been the same family for a while there. There were 3 generations living there, and there was so much verbal abuse coming out during a period of time that I called the police twice. But no one has lived there for about 20 years, and the house has deteriorated significantly. I've called code twice. Last time was several years ago, and I was told that last time I called, I was told that because the owner had been mowing the grass, that she had been compliant. But there continues to be exterior storage, which your item 4.7 is a code violation. There's constantly exterior storage there. When the hurricanes were coming, the whole neighborhood was afraid that things would pick up and fly at us. I know this house is known to code enforcement because it's been in the newspaper. I know it has liens on it. I know that it has fines on it. I know the owner has come before city council and she has begged that her house not be taken from her. But no one lives there. There's never any evidence of anyone being there. There's no lights on inside or outside, and it looks uninhabitable. I know she comes by because I see her truck there coming and going all hours of the day and night, and I'll see her sitting in her truck and maybe sitting on the front porch, but I have never seen any evidence of anyone being inside, and indeed it would be hazardous for anyone to go inside. I've put in a request via Clearwater Connect on coming to this meeting here. I also wrote an email to Rebecca Mulder and to some people I know on the council. And I feel badly making a complaint because I know that there is a significant emotional attachment that this owner has with this house. But it looks like a slum. It's not fair to the rest of us. And we all, work hard to keep our houses up, and it really looks bad. I also know that there is a homestead exemption on this house, according to the tax collector's site. And as I said, it's obvious that no one has lived there. I don't know what to do about it, really. As I said, I feel badly, but it's a detriment to all of us who do live there. So I hope that you can pay some attention to this matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What is the address of the property?
1631 Tuscola, Tuscola.
Have you been in touch with any of the inspectors?
Yes, but as I said, twice I called code. I talked to code inspector twice.
Oh, you did?
Time was several years ago. It was before Clearwater Connect. And I was told that she had started mowing her grass, and so that she was therefore compliant.
But I meant recently, have you been in touch?
No, I kind of gave up after that.
Well, you need to again.
Yeah, there may be,
Well, I did put in Clearwater Connect the other day.
okay. That, I don't believe that, I'm not familiar with Clearwater Connect.
I'm not
It's the app that you can put in concerns.
Okay. I don't know how intimately that's connected with the code enforcement folks, the inspectors. whether it is or isn't, if you call them direct,
Yeah.
then maybe they can get a fresh look at it. Maybe things have changed, and there may be other things that would support
I will by all means
your concerns.
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, do that, because they will call you back if you call them.
Okay, but
Yeah.
as I said, this house has been in the newspaper as one of the worst places in Clearwater. So this is a well-known house.
Well, I don't think you can call them anymore, if I'm correct. You have to email.
Right, well, Clearwater Connect is the direct link in.
Okay,
That's the way to reach.
That's the way to
Oh,
go.
okay.
good.
Okay.
So I don't think I should call them because I did the Clearwater Connect thing.
Okay.
All right,
All right,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that has anything that's not on today's agenda? Please step forward. Mr. Johnson, state your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am Bill Johnson, 2694 Redford Court, west in the countryside area. I hope all of you have had the chance to visit the new wonderful Coachman Park
Yes,
and see
beautiful.
the fit and finish and the wonderful design that was implemented there for the benefit of all of us. I wanted to come today and share a quote that I found in the Stetson Law Review. Ironically, it was about code enforcement. And the quote goes, "Code enforcement officers are first responders whose goal is to stop real property values from falling, to mitigate vandalism, crime, and potential blight, which occurs more frequently in deteriorating neighborhoods, and to help residents of the neighborhoods feel comfortable to enjoy their real property, whether it is homesteaded or investment property." So that's your goal, your mission, and I have spent the last few years looking at properties with occurring code enforcement violations, and some of the deviations that I've seen during that review is Clearwater should not accept cash settlements to abate a accruing fine. It's more important to have the owner fix the property up so that we're not stuck with that rattle trap place in the future. We should more rigorously follow up on suspense dates. If this board says by a certain date, it should be reviewed on that date and then come back to the board for appropriate action. I think you need to ensure total honesty in statements of compliance. There were two examples that I saw where you were told that compliance was achieved, but the violations actually continued to exist according to the photo documents. I think you also need to consider recommendations for nonprofit partners to assist some of these cases to resolve the issues that are perhaps too big for them to do themselves. I challenge the board to get more involved in code enforcement management oversight. How do you feel about our city in comparison to our neighbors? My feeling is that 30 years ago, sparkling Clearwater used to be well ahead of St. Pete, Largo, Safety Harbor, and Dunedin. Now, for some reason, it feels like we don't have our act together compared to our neighbors. We did a great job with Coachman Park, and we can also do a great job maintaining our residential property values through effective code enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Is there anyone else that wants to speak on anything that isn't? Ma'am, come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please.
Vicky Haas, 3035 Cove Drive, Clearwater, 33759. I just want to find out, when somebody reports a code violation, it's not supposed to be anonymous anymore, and when I request to find out who reported me, I get, oh, it was anonymous. But when I reported one a couple months ago, you have to state your name and whatnot. And then I got the email saying, oh, it was resolved, but it's not. So mainly I just want to find out who do we go to actually get the information on who's doing the report and the complaint?
That would, my understanding is that they have to, whoever is calling has to leave their name and their address and their relation to the property, whether it be the next door neighbor or across the street. That's my
When I requested that
understanding.
information, I've been told anonymous.
Okay, Mr. Simpson.
Simpson with the legal department. So a couple of years ago, the state passed a law, and it says, I actually just happen to have it in front of me, it says that a code inspector may not initiate enforcement proceedings for a potential violation of an ordinance by way of an anonymous complaint. A person who reports a potential violation must provide his or her name and address to the local government before an enforcement proceeding may occur. This does not apply if the inspector has reason to believe that the violation is an imminent threat to public health, safety, welfare, or the imminent destruction of habitat or a sensitive resource. So just a couple of things to note, and that's verbatim pretty much. I left out a couple of things, but that's essentially verbatim what it says. This is in part 1 of the Code Enforcement Board statutes, so it only applies to this board. The city has other enforcement avenues that we may use for, depending on the circumstances. So it doesn't say that we can no longer take anonymous tips or complaints, and certainly in the context of criminal activity, we deal with that all the time. So I can't speak to the actual administration of how that's handled. That probably have to go to staff, but from a legal point of view, we can accept an anonymous complaint, but we cannot initiate a proceeding in front of this board based on that complaint. Now, there's lots of other ways that cases can begin. Sometimes our inspectors are driving around neighborhoods and they identify issues that way, and I don't think if somebody called in anonymously that they could somehow eliminate the inspector's ability to pursue a case that they had already identified on their own. It also doesn't exactly say what happens if there's an anonymous complaint in the process. I guess that's something that your counsel would have to advise you if we had a specific case in front of you where the property owner or the respondent in the case was saying, hey, this should not have started because there was an anonymous complaint. We'd have to just deal with that and the facts of that situation as that case was presented to you. But generally speaking, I think we tried from code enforcement, we try to get a name and an address. We don't have a whole lot of ability to authenticate who those people are or whether or not those names and addresses are accurate. And the paper recently was reported that people are putting in complaints under aliases and things like that. And so it's been a difficult piece of legislation for us to implement, but we are attempting to apply it in good faith. And I think the concept is that if somebody's complaining, then they have to provide their name and address to us.
Is that name and address available to the person who's having the complaint filed against them?
Once we log it, if it's written down into a document somewhere, then it will become public record, and so it should be available to anyone that would make a public records request.
Thinking in terms of
I guess, I'm sorry if I may just, one caveat to that is a question that I'm not sure that I know the answer to is certain individuals, their addresses are exempt from public records, like law enforcement officers, for example, and state attorneys. So that, there could be a situation where we receive a complaint from an individual whose name and address is exempt from public record because of their profession. So that further complicates the issue. Just wanted to add that.
Perfect, thank you.
Ms. Noss, did you understand that? Yes.
I understood it. So if somebody called them, or if an inspector was driving by, and then you call and say, hey, who reported me? Would they, if they were initiated on their own, would they have to tell you, we saw it ourselves? Is that how that works?
Rebecca Mulder, Code Manager for the City of Clearwater. So there's two ways for a violation to be identified. It can be self-identified through the zone inspector as they're working their zones, or it can be identified through a citizen that calls in. If it is called in by a citizen, they do need to leave their name and address. The only caveat which Mr. Simpson did reference is if the violation itself poses an imminent hazard.
Okay, so if I've been told it's anonymous, then that's not true?
I would have to look into the specifics of the complaint that you're referencing, so you can get with me and I can look into where it came from. It would depend on the age of the complaint as it was identified. This one took into effect 2021. Also, there's the other nuances, so I can't speak intelligently on a case that I don't have before me.
And do you do the public records request here?
No.
You were saying, what were you talking about?
Well, I mean, I can give you my card and we can take care of that.
Okay.
Thank
I
you,
have a
thank you,
question.
Mrs. Knox.
Based on my understanding about how these things roll, either an inspector sees it or somebody calls it in. Mr. Simpson says if it's anonymous, then the board can act on it, but what about the code enforcement officers? Do they act on it or do they not if it's anonymous? I'm curious as to how that end of things work. Do we know?
Ms. Mulder?
Well,
Or Mr. Simpson?
I'll let it for you.
So with the statute change in 2021, the Code Compliance Department cannot act on an anonymous complaint unless it is interpreted to be a potential life safety or hazard to the community or to the property in itself. But complaints can come in from other departments to the city, such as PD, engineering. There's various methods to submit concerns that citizens have, different avenues, but even if it comes in through one of those avenues and then funnels to eventually to code, we can't pursue without that name, so then we would have to try to figure out who it was, make contact before we can go and investigate. So without knowing the specifics of that one, as it operates right now, we need a name and address, or it's self-identified by the inspector. And if an inspector identifies it, then the case will dictate that, and we would be able to provide that information to the citizen.
Thank you, Mrs. Mulder. Does anyone else have anything to speak on that is not on today's agenda?
Good afternoon, Board. Sarah Green, Code Enforcement Supervisor for the City of Clearwater. I just wanted to come up and introduce our new inspector, our new Code Enforcement Inspector. This is Lisa Byington. She comes from Code Experience from the City of Newport Richey and Treasure Island, so we're very excited to have her.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard. Thank you.
Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you also. Is there anyone else that has anything to speak on that is not on today's agenda? No? All right, we're going to get to new business. Our first item of new business is 4.1 on our agenda, case 49-23, states updated regarding respondent St. Laurent Holdings LLC at 1620 North Fort Harrison Avenue in violation of code for exterior surfaces and doors and windows. Inspector Dixon, is there anyone here to speak on St. Laurent Holdings?
Yeah, it's here. Do you need a refresher on which one this is? If I just show you a picture?
Sure, that's okay. Yeah, we'll let him show us what he's got, and then I'll call you up in just a second, okay? Go ahead, Inspector Dixon.
This is a house on Fort Harrison where he was waiting on some drawings or plans to rehab the house, and you guys postponed it and asked for a status update in July before imposing some sort of compliance date.
Okay. I don't remember this one, but that doesn't matter. So we're just here to get an update from the owners to see what's going on?
Yeah, I had set a compliance date for August 1st,
Okay.
but you guys felt you needed a little more time to make plans to improve the property, so status update was asked for at this meeting. And as far as code goes, there's been no change to the property. There are no open permits, but he has been working on some other things. I'll let him speak to that.
Okay.
And he can make a decision on
All right.
Okay, thank you.
where you want to go.
All right, thank you. Sir, will you come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, Frank Persicino, 628 Cleveland Street.
What's the status of this property, Frank?
So I heard from my architect, I gave him a deadline, and he gave me some, just a preliminary picture of what we're going to be doing to close some windows. That's what we talked about last time. He said that he'd have the designs for me completed next week, signed by a PE, And I do have a contractor on standby, so it won't be much of a delay after I get those designs done. Contractor Jason Dunton Construction. He's done permits and work on that property before.
So
he's available. He's got a part-time carpenter that'll be available to, close up some windows. That's what the plan was.
Okay.
Because of the boards that I have over them. And so I would need a little bit more of an extension to get this all completed.
Okay. Have you applied for your permits to go ahead and start the work once you get your plans and everything?
The contractor told me that he was waiting for the plans before he applied for it. He told me that the application was just a couple of hours, but he wanted to do it when he had the plans in hand.
Yeah, you won't get anywhere without drawings.
Yeah, I was going to say. Okay.
This is the architect that had done he had done drawings for me for the whole building back in 2015, but it's not on CAMs anymore. It's on some sort of 3D software now.
Okay.
So he has to update that.
All right. Well, let us hear from our inspector again, and
Sure.
And we'll.
So one question, how much time do you need? Another 30 days?
I would give it just 60, just to, I don't know what the supplies are going to be. That's that siding on there.
Okay.
I don't know what the availability of that siding is going to be.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Dixon,
We're okay with that.
are you okay with the
60 days.
60 days? So do we want to continue this back for 2 months from now? So we'll.
Do you want it as a status update in 60 days, or do you want the case to come? Because what you've already done is found the violation.
Yeah.
You have not ordered a compliance date yet.
Okay, compliance date.
Just let me know.
What do you think, guys?
If I can interject, I know that the typical scenario, once you get the drawings and you apply for a permit, that's you have to get the drawings first, otherwise you don't get to first base without the drawings.
Okay.
The city needs enough time to review it, and it's very, very common that they may kick it back with the level of work that needs to be done. They may kick it back for some adjustments, additional questions. That's a process. Then it goes back to the city. They finish reviewing it, and they finally issue the permit. So, as long as they're working on it, I would think, in my opinion, a status update is good.
60 days?
If we issue a date for compliance, as long as we have the opportunity and they're moving along and it's going through the permit process, and we're able to adjust that, either one's fine with me.
Okay. Okay, that's what we'll do. We'll extend this out. We'll continue it out till August, or September. Our September meeting for a status update, and then we'll go from there and see.
That's fine.
Is that fine?
Yeah.
Okay, that'll give you time to get your plans and get the permits and everything in the, yes, sir.
I think you would need a motion for that.
Yeah.
Okay, can I have
I make a motion to continue this for 60 days and review at that time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We'll see you back in September.
Nicole,
Okay.
When it's cooler.
Nicole, that monitor's not working, just in case you.
That one goes out.
All right, our
Good answer.
next case is 4.2 on the agenda. Forget 4.2, it's continued to August 23rd. Let's move on down to 4.5, which is continued from June 28th. Case number 59-23, find respondents G&G Vacations LLC at 701 South Madison Avenue in violation of code for short-term rental, and issue an order with the compliance deadline and fine if compliance is not met. Hi, how are you? Is there anyone here to speak for that property? No? Yeah.
Good afternoon, Board. Sarah Green, Code Enforcement Supervisor for the City of Clearwater. This was a case for an illegal short-term rental that has since come into compliance, so we're seeking a declaration of violation.
Okay.
I move to find the respondent was in violation of the code as referred to in the affidavit in this case. The violation was corrected prior to today's hearing, and to enter an order that no fine be imposed. If the respondent repeats the violation, the board may order a fine up to $500 for each day the violation continues to exist.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. This is agenda number 4.7, case 61-23. Find respondents Karen Winter Christie at 1184 South Duncan Avenue in violation of code for exterior storage, and issue an order with a compliance deadline and fine if compliance is not met. Is there anyone here to speak on that? Ms. Christie?
Yes.
Please come forward. at the podium. If you'll have a seat, Mr. Inspector, for just a second, sir. Hi, Ms. Christie. I just have a question. Do you admit or deny the violation?
That's a really good question. I really don't know how to answer that.
Okay.
I have not been advised on how to answer that, and I don't know exactly what I'm facing, so I don't know how to answer that.
Okay, well, if you'll just have a seat, I'll bring our inspector up and let him give us a little insight on the case, and then we'll get back to you.
Okay.
We have to handle that as a denial. If she doesn't admit, it's a denial.
Okay. All right,
Well, I'm not sure.
I know, but just for sake of argument, we're going to take your word for it, but it's a denial, because you're not admitting it. Either way, you're still going to have to say it.
Right, okay.
It's in your favor, really.
We're not bad guys.
have a seat, and we'll get back with you in just a minute, Mrs. Christie.
Good afternoon. Dave Jensen with the City of Clearwater Code Compliance Office. This is for 1184 Duncan, case number 61-23. Going to have one violation for exterior storage. This is the date of our postings and the compliance date. Back on April 3rd, this was the beginning of the case. I opened it. Around the same time that I noticed the property, we did receive a complaint from a citizen that lives next door regarding the property as well. As you can see, there was a camper out front, which is a violation of one of our ordinances. It has been removed. Most of the stuff that is out front in these first few pictures has been removed. Some of it's been moved to the backyard. Some of the stuff that you're going to see in the backyard was already there. That is actually a picture near the edge of the backyard. This property backs up to a small lake. This is one of the piles of stuff that is still present on the property. I'll show you in future pictures. Upon noticing the property, posting it, mailings were sent. Ms. Mulder from our department and I have spoken to the property owner, Ms. Christie, a few times in reference to the property, trying to get the items cleaned up, moved back indoors. We have been unable to get a cognizant answer as to why the items are outdoors, other than the fact she's trying to get some sort of contamination remediated from the property. The items have been kind of moving around the property at times. As of this date, I'll show you the pictures here in a minute. The front yard, like I said, is pretty much cleaned up. There's still a table with a gas can out front. Other than that, the stuff's been moved from the front yard. However, there are two large piles in the backyard. Some of the items in the backyard are what we consider a violation of the exterior storage because they do not belong outdoors to begin with. Some of the stuff could be considered an outdoor, okay to be outdoors. However, it's getting to the point that it's becoming a nuisance, that it could be in violation of another ordinance in the future for attracting rodents, etc. So we're trying to get this headed off and get the items taken care of and moved either indoors or off of the property. The last conversation that Ms. Mulder and I had was on 5/16 with the property owner. We asked her if she had a plan for getting the property cleaned up or the items moved, and she said she had no plan to get anything taken care of. In about the last 3 to 4 weeks, I have not noticed any movement of any of the items that are outdoors on the property. This is from the south side of the property looking north. All the items you see here, the bicycles, ladders, table, all that stuff is still there. There's an empty hammock stand. This is that same pile from the street side looking to the west. You see a lot of different items again. Some of it's stuff that would be okay to be outdoors, some of it's not, such as the gas can, the pressure washer, different things like that. Again, now grass is starting to grow up around this stuff as it can't be moved directly underneath the items. Again, we're going to start harboring pests and different things like that, which we don't want. Here are some hurricane shields that have been sitting on the property since 5/15 when this picture was taken. Again, this is not an outdoor style table that's there. Totes, this tarp doesn't appear to be on the stuff anymore. This was taken in July from across the pond at a neighboring property. Speaking with those homeowners, they've been watching this stuff go on for several months now too, and it's beginning to be a concern to them as well. This is the north side of the property, that the pile with the the table that was on its side, and this is the south side where all the bicycles, the pressure washer are at. And this is just from the 25th. Again, taken from the street side, nothing's really changed. And this was just from today in the backyard. Again, this pile's been moved a little bit. Some of the stuff's down here by the hurricane shields. Again, this over here, really nothing's changed much. Nothing's been taken care of or put away. It's just the way it's been for the last several months. Again, I've been dealing with this since the 3rd of April. So we've been trying to get compliance with absolutely no luck. So pictures of the postings. This is the updated posting for the date change from last month's council meeting. Compliance can be met with removal from yards and driveway areas, all equipment, materials, furnishings that are not designed for outdoor use, maintain the property free of such items. We're requesting compliance on or before August 30th of 2023 or a fine of $150 per day for each day that the violation exists.
All right. Thank you.
Nothing's been moved at all? Nothing's been
No,
cleaned?
back here, like I said, about the last 3 to 4 weeks, nothing's
Okay.
been done any further.
Okay.
Once.
Almost 30 another 5 weeks.
Ms. Christie, you can come back up now. Thank you, Inspector Jensen.
I'm very sorry to hear that I only have 15 minutes because I brought quite a bit of material here to educate you all on something that I was not educated on as a professional RN. I did not know the existence of many of these things that I have now researched. So I think where to start is that I have suffered undue loss and inability to be in my home. This is a picture of me in May of last year. Okay? And May of this year is when I quit going to my home at 112 pounds and on $100,000 of medication a month to stay alive. So, I have not been able to live in my home, and I have had undue health matters that have come upon me, and I feel as though, and I know as though, that it is due to the lack of the city of Clearwater doing its job to make sure that the neighbor next door at 1188 that had a home full of mold and all sorts of disease and a wide open broken raw sewage that had been leaking from under the home for decades, and none of that was remediated properly.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Did you have any testing done on your home?
I have a geologist, Tim Lentz, who is down in Miami working with the archaeologist that's supposed to come test my soil and my water and the lake water when he can.
All right. Did you have any testing done on the interior of the home? Any air tests or any air quality tests done?
I had my AC totally cleaned and all of the micro everything that they do, and I had it professionally done, and I did all of that. I have had 2 plumbers scope every entire line, every spout, every opening, any sort of. I have terrazzo floors that are polished.
But you had no testing done on the air quality of the indoor of the home?
No.
Could I ask a question? I mean, sorry, you done?
But can I mention that I can't be outside of my home? It's not just inside. I'm now breaking out and totally from outside of my home, and this is how it originally started. This is a picture of my legs.
Ma'am, could I interrupt for just 1 second and ask you a question? I appreciate your medical problems. I can understand that it's causing you great difficulty and all that. But could you just address why you can't remove these things out of your yard by yourself or someone else? Because that's the only thing we're trying to find out right now.
Yes, okay. So these are my legs
Understand?
working in my garage
But can you get someone
on my
else?
concrete.
Can you get someone else to help you to move these things?
I have had 4 people that I have hired. I've lost tens of thousands of dollars. I've had things stolen from me.
And just to move you.
No one has done anything correctly. Everyone has contaminated and recontaminated. I've asked to clean up, I've asked to paint, I've asked all sorts of things, and I've had terrible, terrible situations. I've had things, brand new things stolen from me. I had a supposed expert handyman come and pour footers. I sold new construction for at the Ruttenberg for years, so I'm very familiar with construction. And as I'm attempting to do things on the exterior of my home, because I can't even stand to be around and thinking if I
But I'm saying,
paint, if I chlorinate.
can't you find somewhere to
Where?
store?
Where am I going to
storage
store
units.
it?
There's
Because the concrete I keep thinking that everything's gonna be okay. I've continued to pay, and I paid my water.
When were those pictures taken, ma'am,
These pictures?
of your legs?
Okay, this particular picture is June of 2022.
Okay, that's part
That
of
was
it.
over a
Yeah.
year ago.
All right.
That's,
The
yeah,
other
your
day-
legs look like they've healed up
The
from
other
here.
day, I went there and
Excuse me, ma'am. I just need you to come to the podium so we can have you on the microphone.
If I may too, Mr.
Where is the microphone?
If I could just,
Right in front of you.
this meeting is broadcast on the television, and the information that you're presenting is public record, so if you're gonna present your medical information, I want you to be aware that we're on television and.
Oh, and I'm presenting my personal health.
Okay, I just want you to.
I was not aware of that.
Ma'am, that pictures is your personal health information.
It certainly
So
is.
I know it is.
Our commitment on the board is to understand and
Okay,
help guide you with the violation here.
Okay.
I appreciate your situation,
yes.
your medical problems and the situation with the house and the difficulties that you
Yes,
have with the property.
Yes,
Our focus and our concern, and the only thing that we can address here, has to do with
yes.
the outdoor stuff you have and what's the best resolution for that, and
Yes.
help
Okay.
get that resolved.
If you could, with the information that I've shared with you thus far, if you could place yourself in my situation.
We can't do that, ma'am.
Just for a moment.
We can't
stop
do
and
that.
think that 1 minute I think, okay, I'm gonna be okay, and I'm gonna figure this out, and I'm gonna be back living in my home. And then the next day, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't even be here. And what am I gonna do? Can I ever even have my things again? I've left my home, I have many people that wanna rent my home throughout this time. I'm continuing to pay my bills thinking, and my printer even, that
Ma'am, can we
any day.
move on to fruition? What are you going to do about the present situation?
So, at this time, I am expecting this person to be coming from Miami that is delayed.
It has nothing to do with the
Supposed to be doing
removal.
testing to figure out what's going on. I don't know from moment to moment what I'm doing.
Let me
Am I
explain
staying, am
to
I
you.
going, what can I do with this? But I
Right.
got to a point where you know why nothing's moved? I was there from morning till night, every day, since all this started. I haven't lived in my home since August of last year. This has been going on. And I've been there working every day until I became so sick and so thin and so beyond that I haven't even been there in 4 weeks.
So let me ask you a question. What's it going to take to get this exterior stuff handled so that you can get into compliance?
I don't know.
Have
I don't know what to do.
Have you looked at renting a pod and having somebody put it in a pod so that it's not out? The only problem that we're addressing here is the fact that you have stuff stored exterior that hasn't been dealt with. So the solution to it is to find a way to deal with it.
I could just buy a storage unit and put a storage unit out
You can
there
rent
and
one.
put it in
You
there.
can rent one, yeah.
Right?
But the idea is we have to find a resolution to it so that you're in compliance, so that we don't have to take further action. That's the only thing we can address here.
He's trying to give you suggestions. And
Right. Well, I appreciate that. And I don't know what to do. I don't know
Well,
if I can even be
that's what
around
we're
those
here for.
things. Because at times I can, and at times I
Mr.
can't even
Chairman,
be
you
around
need to
those
take
things. So, and then it comes back to the case that I'm not the only neighbor that's experiencing many.
But right now, it's
outside
you.
of our purview.
It's you right now,
We
ma'am.
can't address that. What we're here to do is address the violation that you have on the exterior storage and help you find a resolution to that.
We have to resolve this because it will be costing you money down the road
Yeah,
if you don't.
we're trying to prevent that.
We don't need to have that happen.
Yeah, you don't need that,
If I may, when she
Yes.
said I do have more information for this.
So one thing that, then according to what I'm hearing from you, is that I could purchase an outdoor storage shed to put, and then I have complied with putting these things in a storage shed,
You might have to get a permit for
You
that.
know, I would suggest to you,
right?
typically, if you're within a certain size, then a shed doesn't need to be permitted. The typical size is 10 by 10, less than 100 square feet. So that's certainly an option. There are also companies that rent pods, like temporary storage pods.
Yeah.
For a monthly rental. It could be as simple as setting a pod, getting a laborer to come over, put stuff in the pod, you know, and then talking with
And
your
setting
inspector
the
to see
pod
if that,
in the yard?
if that
No, you
results
can't do
in
that. Just 30 days is it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to
If
go
I
back.
may, I would, I'd be reluctant for the board to give her advice on how to, I mean, if the stuff's not stored outside and she's in compliance, how that is managed is really for her to decide and figure out, and the staff is more than willing to explore whatever options, but we don't know as far as permits and those kinds of requirements, I'd caution the board from advising her on those things, and essentially, we're just asking that the outdoor storage be put somewhere else, not in the yard as it currently sits.
Here from the code.
I don't know that I've heard anything from her contesting that it shouldn't be out there, so I think at this point, it's really just a matter of how much time does she need to be able to get it put somewhere else, and if her health issues are causing some delays and things, the city's more than willing to hear her out and as far as what kind of time frame she needs because of her health condition.
Okay. Well, let me get a first motion, please.
I move to find the respondent in violation of the code as referred to in the affidavit in this case.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the motion carries. Ma'am, our best suggestion is probably get with Mr. Jensen and he can sort of guide you on how to possibly remediate this situation so that fines won't accrue on you and liens won't come. So right now, I'm going to have you have a seat, and I'm going to bring Mr. Jensen back up.
Okay, well, I didn't get to make the point because I know someone had asked me about the date of this, but I have many pictures of.
That doesn't matter. That's not up to us,
last
ma'am.
week.
Unfortunately,
We can't do anything about that.
we're just
We're
here.
sorry for you having to go through that, but we can't do anything about that.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. Mr. Jensen?
Actually, things I was going to mention, I think we already touched on. But, as far as the pods, I believe our current ordinance for a pod is 4 days, is all we allow them to be there. So,
How long?
4 days.
Yeah, but.
4 days?
Yeah, correct. Okay, I think it's 4 times a year that you can have it over 4 days.
Right.
So,
Can you bring your recommendation back up, please?
Yes.
On the screen, so we can see what.
Yep, so again, I can read it again. The removal from yards and driveway areas, all equipment, materials, and furnishings not designed for outdoor use, maintain the property free of such items.
August 30th
August
August 30th,
That should be
yes.
enough.
and 150 per day.
Correct, so,
Oh,
yeah, that's,
Ms. Christie? Will August 30th, will that be enough time for you to somehow get your stuff in line and get it in?
That's almost 5
How
days.
much time do you think you need?
Need you to come back up.
Yeah, come back up, please. I'm sorry.
We're giving you 5 more weeks.
Yes, but, I mean, at this point, I'm not gonna share my personal information, but as of the last time I was there to grab my mail, it was not good.
Okay.
And that's all I did.
So we have to go by how long this has been going on.
So I understand that, and I understand, and as I say, I was working diligently from day and night until I couldn't anymore, and that was in May.
And that could occur again.
And it could.
That's
It
why we
could.
have to do something.
That's why I need more time, because I have
We're
to
giving
start,
you that.
I have to start small out there
We
and
just
take
gave
it
you that.
easy.
If you'll
And
listen, we just gave you almost 5 more weeks.
That's not enough time.
How much time do you think you will need?
I
We need
think I need 2
a
to
date.
3 months.
I think 5 weeks is plenty.
Yeah, that's gonna be too much.
5 weeks is
you know.
not long enough. It is not long enough. I get out there and it is very difficult. And another thing is that I can't share my personal information. So I didn't allow anybody to help me for the longest time until my doctor sent her husband out to help me because I was afraid that other people were going to be affected by this. So I don't have people come out and help me that are my children. All of my children ended up respiratory illness for 12 weeks when they all came out and broken out. We've had a lot of illnesses.
Can we make a second motion, Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
You're good.
if you can. Yes.
I move to enter an order requiring the respondent to correct the violations on or before August 30th, 2023. If the respondent does not comply by that date, the board may order a fine of $150 per day per violation for each day each violation continues to exist. If fine and fees remain unpaid 3 months after such lien is filed, the city is authorized to collect or settle such lien.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Christie, you have till August 30th to before your fines and is going to start accruing. So
5 weeks.
try to find, people to help you get this stuff moved and get into compliance. Thank you.
Mr. Code Inspector, can I ask a question, not pertaining to this? And may need you, Ms. Mulder. I'm talking hypothetical here. You run into cases where people have certain issues and all that. Do you ever go outside of the norm? I mean, talk to family members, talk to a church, talk to somebody else to help on these issues?
That would be something I would let Ms. Mulder speak to.
Most of
But as well, I've been,
Again, I'm just
I've been
talking
for since, with the city since December. If this was a topic in Michigan where I have a little more knowledge of stuff, but I would leave that either to our counselor or to Ms. Mulder. She can speak to that probably way better than I can, and she knows better the resources that are available.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Mulder.
All right, moving on.
She's going to answer my question.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Rebecca Mulder, Code Manager. There are organizations that code compliance does reach out to when there are violations and the property owners can't manage the project or the scope of the compliance, that we can potentially ask for assistance. It's never guaranteed. There's usually time restraints or scope limitations or the need for property insurance, various scenarios that those organizations require to participate. So there are some limited options and organizations that we can reach out to or provide contact information for the property owner to reach out to.
Good, so it's not out of your norm to do that for somebody that you think may need some extra help.
If we can find assistance, we also work with the neighborhoods department to see if they have any organizations or people that could assist in those things, but there's certainly not an abundance of people waiting.
I understand. Thank you. You answered my question.
Ms. Christie, did you hear what Ms. Mulder was saying? So you possibly may be able to get in contact with them to help in assistance in getting your matter resolved? Thank you. Our next case is 4.8 on our agenda, case 62-23. Find respondents Luis and Lorena Rodriguez at 307 Eldridge Street in violation of code for residential rental business tax receipt, and issue an order of compliance, deadline, and fine if compliance is not met. Is there anyone here to speak on this for the defendant? No?
Just Daniel.
Mr. Casman, you have the floor. Hello.
This will be a simple one. Daniel Casman, Code Enforcement Inspector for the City of Clearwater. This is for case number 62-23 for 307 Eldridge Street. There's only one violation here for Code Section 3-2302 for residential rental business tax receipt. These are just the dates of notice of violation with the compliance date, an affidavit of posting, and then there's a notice of hearing at the property for today's hearing. This is a little bit tough to see, but this is our Acela system. Currently, it might be easier to see on that screen, the property has no business tax receipt for the rental that's occurring at the property. It would be under a BTR heading. There was once a rental way back in the day, but it's since been sold to the new owners. This is our utilities records showing that the property is being rented to someone else other than the owners right now. I initially went out to this property for an inoperative vehicle issue, and then after having checked our system, noticed that there was no BTR for rental there. This is just a picture of the affidavit of posting after the compliance date. I didn't get any of the mail signed for. The owners have all mail come to this location, but I believe they actually live somewhere else.
Is this a single family dwelling?
I believe it's a row. If you've ever been down Eldridge Street, it goes to a little bit of a dead end with a lift station at the end and then a slope downward into the bay. But it's all a bunch of, I don't know if you call it townhouses or single condominiums, each lined up against each other, and each one owns a parking spot just down the street, which corresponds to each unit.
Daniel, how long have they been in compliance with BTR?
It looks like the new owners probably may have never had one. I don't, they have a lease, they started renting the current tenant in 2021, but we don't.
Was that do you have a record of the last BTR?
The last BTR for rental was 2003.
Great.
As far as the new owners, I don't know when they started renting initially, but to the current tenant, it's only been since 2021. We tend to go forward with these and not.
Is that homesteaded?
No, it's not homesteaded, it's definitely a rental property.
Okay.
So this was again, this was in April, same thing, the sub net applied for a business tax receipt after I'd sent notice, the property's been posted, and they're still renting to the same individual. This is the notice of hearing posted on the front door of the property for today's hearing. I still haven't gotten contact from anyone. This was the 21st, the still not applied for a business tax receipt, still renting. And then again on the 26th today, they still have not contacted me, applied for a business tax receipt, and they're still renting to the individual inside.
Wow.
So, compliance to be met for the residential rental business tax receipt required by obtaining a business tax receipt for the residential rental or by ceasing to rent the property. And my recommendations are I'm requesting compliance on or before August 26th of 2023, or a fine of $25 per day per violation for each day the violations continue to exist.
Thank you. I move to respondent in violation of the code as referred to in the affidavit in this case.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
I move to enter an order requiring the respondent to correct the violations on or before August 26, 2023. If the respondent does not comply by that date, the board may order a fine of $150 per day.
Could we get that to $25 instead?
25,
Oh,
yeah.
$25. You were very nice. $25 per day per violation for each violation continues to exist. Fines and fees remain unpaid 3 months after such lien is filed. The city is authorized to foreclose, collect, or settle such lien.
Get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Good catch.
Motion carries.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Casman. Next item on our agenda is 4.10, case 66-23. Find respondents Cleveland Gulf to Bay LLC at 1417 Cleveland Street in violation of permits and issue an order with the compliance deadline and fine if compliance is not met. Is there anyone here to speak on that? Sir, if you'll come forward. Ma'am, Ms. Inspector, we'll have you have a seat for just 1 second, please. State your name and address for the record, please.
Nick Anderson, 115 South Keystone Drive is my residence. I'm representing High Point Realty, who's the property manager for the owner for this property.
Mr. Anderson, do you admit or deny the violation?
As far as I know, yes. I mean, it looks like it's been having, I've only gotten aware of this about a month ago.
You admit it? Yes?
Yes.
Can I get a first motion, please?
I move to find the respondent in violation of the code as referred to in the affidavit in this case.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Anderson, if you want to have a seat, I'm going to have the inspector come up and give us a little background on this property, and then I'll call you back up. Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Espinoza. You have the floor.
Excuse me for a moment. Before she starts, I'm going to recuse myself on this particular case. I know Mr. Anderson. Okay?
I don't believe you can recuse yourself just because.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't unless there's a conflict of interest or both.
No, you don't have to vote. I just
If
know
I
you
may-
personally.
You don't have to vote, yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I may, just.
Yes, go ahead.
If I could inquire about that a little bit, or you know him, but do you have any kind of business relationships with him?
I do not.
You don't, and do you have any familiarity with this property or this situation that's coming before you?
I do not.
And then you think you can be fair and impartial as far as hearing what's
Sure.
presented today and deciding based on that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, then city has no objection to you.
Just want to make sure we're clear on everything.
Okay.
So we're good. Okay.
Inspector Espinosa, you have the floor.
Just trying to do the right thing here, that's all.
I appreciate that, thank you. Nilda Espinosa, Housing Inspector, City of Clearwater. I'm here today for 1417 Cleveland Street. I have to give you a little background history on this property. I had brought this to Code Board back in 21, the end of 21, beginning of 22. The board at that time it was for the same violation, which is work being done without permits. Unfortunately, the board at that time found it in violation. When official records went to put the lien on the property, found out that the old ownership had sold the property. So it had to remove the lien and start again. This property is owned by someone who I brought to Code Board for same violation on a different property. He was found in violation. This becomes a repeat violation because it's the same violation, work without permits.
Do you have a picture of it?
Yes, I'm going to show you that
Oh,
right
okay.
now. Okay, so it's a stop work order, permits required. We're commencing with it before permits issuance. Notice of repeat violation was sent out in June of 24. What happened was that I started this earlier in June, had the wrong address in the property appraiser's website. Had to start again. So I had to send it out towards the end of June, I found out. And compliance date, it's a repeat violation. All I have to do is notify the violator, and I'm not required to give a reasonable time to correct the violation. I did send out return receipt mails. I sent it to property Clearwater Beach, Tennessee, and posted the property. And I also sent a copy to the property management. I sent out the notice of hearing on the same date, in June 26th. And of course, certified mail was returned as vacant. That went to Clearwater Beach address. Repeat violation means a violation or provision of code or ordinance by a person who has been previously found through a code board, enforcement board, or any other quasi-judicial or judicial process who have violated or who has admitted violating the same provision within 5 years prior to the violation, notwithstanding the violations occurred at different locations. This is the property. It's 1417 Cleveland Street. It is a strip mall. It's towards the east end of the mall.
Do you have a picture of the mall?
I do.
Good. That's what we need to see.
Yes. This is 1417. It's a restaurant right now. This is 1415. They opened the wall between 1417 and 1415. I cannot find a permit for it anywhere.
Is that where they're doing the new road construction on that end?
Going up that way, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about now.
This is the opening. As you can see, if you look down towards the bottom of the picture, you can see where flooring is missing. That's all new. Well, as far as I know, it's new. This is a walk-in cooler. Okay, no permit for that either. I can't find it. I'm showing you from the archives, city archives. This is the listing of all the units in there. 1417 is the last one. Next is 1415A. Those are the two ones that I'm dealing with right now. and I'll leave it to you.
Board, do you have any questions for her?
No.
All right, if you have a seat, I'll have Mr. Anderson step back up.
Repeat.
Mr.
Anderson, what's going on with this property?
So what's going on is I'm just recently finding out about it, right? Because I've been, like I said, this property was purchased last July 1st, right? By the owners of Dr. Mohammed Farrar and his wife Jenny. And we were hired as High Point Realty to be the property manager for the property. The tenant, right, told me probably back in December that they were having trouble with a license, but they don't speak English. They only speak Spanish, so I thought they were just having trouble getting their license, and so I didn't really do a lot on it at that time because I thought they were just having trouble getting their license. Right? I didn't realize it was a BTR, and I didn't realize it had to do with code violations or had to do with anything like that. Just kind of recently, I've been in touch with Mr. Root and a couple of the other officers because I say I manage that building in another building of theirs, and things come up and I have to handle things, right? So, but this particular property, I recently only become familiar with it. Now, I've had a contractor come out and actually give me an estimate of what that would take to redo that, put a header in there and things like that. But, and I've been in touch with Mr. Root about how to begin to try to do that. But I was asking for permission to have somebody else other than our contractor do the plans, because the plans have to be done before we can actually pull the permits, right? So, because what's needed is permits for both this opening and the walk-in, right? So just yesterday, I had an engineer, because I've been having a hard time finding a commercial architect that would do something as small, because they don't like doing small things. But I got Daniel, just a second. I want to give you the exact name, but I want to actually tell you the correct name. Daniel's Development Company of Southwest Florida looked at it last night, and then they're going to be giving me plans and we're working with them to open on the permits. So what I'm asking for today is that if I just have an extension of 60 days, because architects move slowly, I can actually probably get this all done, get permits pulled, and get these things handled. But I didn't really know about them until recently.
Okay. Board, do you have any questions?
Just a recommendation.
He's our contractor around here.
That sounds right to me.
Okay. Mr. Anderson, if we have a seat, I'll have Ms. Espinoza come back up and give us her recommendation, and then we'll figure it out. Your recommendations, Inspector Espinoza?
Yes. Okay, compliance on or before August 31st, 2023.
We know what you meant.
It's been so busy. Or a fine of $150 per day after 3 months from the recordation date of such lien. If the fines and fees remain unpaid, the city attorney's office is authorized to foreclose, collect, or settle such lien using any legal or equitable remedies available under the law.
All right.
Amen.
Yes?
Just based on my experience with commercial stuff, I think he's going to need at least 60 days to maybe get through the permit process, and then the work's going to take very little time at all.
September 30th?
Very small. So, yeah, I would say.
September 30th. Will that be enough time, Mr. Anderson, September 30th?
60 days should be fine, yeah, I'm not delaying, I'm actively on this.
Okay. Can I get a motion for the extension?
Well, that's the second motion.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
I move to enter an order that the fine of $150 per day be imposed for the days. It's the second order. So where do we start with the second order on this one? How many days do we already count?
Did we do a first motion?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we already did the first motion.
This is the second order.
This is a repeat violation?
Yes.
And did you provide the dates?
No.
We're not asking to date the fine back.
No.
Okay.
So if the board is amenable to that
Yes.
September 30th deadline, and
Can I get a clarification about what repeat violation means here? Because
Mr. Chair, I can quickly clarify that.
Mr. Simpson.
Under the statute, if you're a repeat violation, then the city is not required to give you a certain amount of time before we bring it to code board.
Okay.
We can immediately schedule it for code board. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we can ask that the fines be dated back to the date that the violation was discovered, the notice violation. But that was not Ms. Espinoza's request.
Okay.
And so we're deferring to the board to make a decision on the compliance deadline.
Yeah, she read that. You know,
I think it's important that it's not.
I just need you to.
Yeah, come back
I
up
can
to
clarify that too, Mr. Chair. This owner was a repeat violator because the definition of repeat violation is same person, same violation within a 5-year period. It does not have to be on the same property. So as Ms. Espinoza pointed out in the beginning of her presentation, this property owner has done work without a permit on another property that he owned within the city. She didn't present all the details to that case, but we're not asking to date the fine back, so it doesn't really have a lot of bearing on today's proceeding.
The owner we're talking about is Dr. Furler, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I got a good motion to work.
Okay. Yeah.
I move to enter an order requiring the respondent to correct the violation on before September 30th, 2023. If the respondent does not comply by that date, the board may order a fine of $150 per violation for each day the violation continues to exist. If fines and fees remain unpaid, 3 months after such lien is filed, the city is authorized to foreclose and collect such lien.
May I get a second?
Can I have a question on that? You said September 30th. Shouldn't we have it on the date that we're meeting so we can discuss it? What is September 30th the date?
September 30th could be good.
Well, that'll be after our meeting.
If it's a compliance deadline, then the inspector's going to go out after that deadline or verify through our system whether a permit has been issued. If there's no permit issued at that time, she'll file an affidavit of non-compliance, and that'll come back before the board the following meeting.
Okay. Because all the time.
Can I get a second on that?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Anderson, you understand that you have until September 30th to...
Thank you, Ms. Espinoza.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have to say that he has been contacting me and working, so I'm good with that.
And we did give an extension where we didn't have to.
She's trying to do the right thing.
Our next item is 4.11, which is continued until our August meeting.
Thank you.
So that is going to conclude new business items. Unfinished business are accept the affidavits of compliance listed. Case 5.1.1, case 156-21, 5.1.2, case 101-22, 5.1.3, case 104-22, 5.1.4, case 05-23, 5.1.5, case 23-26, 5.1.6, case 56-23, case 21-23, and 5.3, case 25-23. Can I get a motion?
I move to accept the affidavits in compliance as listed.
Yeah, that's,
Can I get a second?
no, well, I'm sorry, so up through 5.1.6 is what your motion will be on.
Oh, that's right.
5.2 and 5.3 will be heard separately.
Those are non-compliant.
Oh, okay.
Cases 21-23 and 25-.
Okay.
We're going through 5.16.
Yes.
Okay.
This case.
All right.
I move to accept the affidavits of his compliance as listed.
All in favor? All opposed?
We need a second.
I'll second.
He might have a comment.
Wait a minute, there's confusion here.
Do you,
Mr.
I
Johnson?
had a comment or question, if I may,
Is
on
it contempt?
5.1.5 before you vote.
Okay.
It shows that it's a affidavit of compliance for an abandoned building. The building is still abandoned. The only difference is that there's a fence around it now.
Okay.
Does that make,
What was the violation? We need to know the violation before we know.
We don't have that information in front of us.
I have a picture of it if that would help.
You have the address?
excuse me, Rebecca Mulder, Code Manager. The inspector here that is submitting the affidavit of compliance is here and can speak to why he's filing that, as well as I have some supplemental information if
Good.
needed.
Mr. Johnson, if you'll have a seat, our Inspector Castman will explain why it's being filed as affidavit of compliance.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but this case, or at least this property was on this agenda under 4.11 as well. And the reason that was continued is that they do have an attorney now, and he was not able to be present today.
Okay.
I am, and I guess because there's an objection to the affidavit from the citizen, I'm just going to request that we pull that affidavit from today's motion and move it to next month. I would be reluctant to have the board get into discussing this when they have an attorney who specifically requested a continuance because he's not able to be here today, and if the board gets into the details of it, I don't want to create some basis for objection that the board's addressing the case when the attorney's not here. So I just ask that entire matter be postponed to next month. The attorney will be here, and we'll give a full update on that property at that time, and we'll be able to address any concerns that anyone may have at that time.
Are we talking about the same property, 600 Edenville?
No, 1510 Berry Street.
Berry Road.
Okay.
And there was previously a determination of a violation related to abandoned building.
From my house.
And there are two matters
I
on
know
the
it broke
agenda
very
today, the unsafe building case, which we've already continued.
Yep.
And I was just to clarify that was based on the request that they have retained an attorney who was unavailable today. So I'm just asking that we not get into the details of it, and then next month the attorney shows up and objects to everything we did.
But it's already continued, right?
So you'll need to go back through them, I guess.
Yep, I will. Okay, let's try this one more time. We're going to accept the affidavit's compliance on 5.1.1, case 156-21, 5.1.2, case 101-22, 5.1.3, case 104-22, 5.1.4, case 0523, 5.1.6, case 5623.
I move to accept the affidavits as compliance as listed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
We need a motion to, case 2623 to send it to next meeting.
We've already done that.
No, it's already been continued, which is 4.10 on our agenda, or 4.11 on our agenda. So it's already been continued.
Okay.
What about 5.3?
That's confusing.
Those are next.
We're not there yet, they're next.
Okay.
Those are non-compliant.
So our next case would be 5.2? Okay. 5.2, case 21-23.
Hang on just a second, Mr. Chairman. We got confusion here.
Okay.
All right, we've done 5.16, but he's saying this under I'm still under unfinished business of compliance. What about 5.2 and 5.3?
They're coming up. I'm doing
That's all I'm trying to find out.
Getting ready to, you're jumping the gun. Let me do my job up here. All right. 5.2 on our agenda, case 21.
Now, wait a minute, I was told that was under non-compliance. This is under compliance. These two coming up.
5.1.1 through 5.1.6 are affidavits of compliance.
Yeah,
5.2 and 5.3 are affidavits of non-compliance.
okay, thank you.
Listen up.
Are you,
All under unfinished business.
you got it in your mind now? You know what's
Yeah,
up?
I see it now.
All right.
Sorry.
That's okay. Agenda number 5.2, case 21-23, accept the affidavit of noncompliance for respondents SMR PAC 1 or I-B LLC at 18 Citrus Avenue for landscape maintenance. Is there anyone here to speak on that? Please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Shannon Finley. I work for Main Street Renewal. We manage the property for the owner.
I'm sorry, could you repeat your name for me?
Shannon Finley,
Finley?
F-I-N-L-E-Y.
Thank you.
Address?
She already got her address.
Okay.
So we just need to have a motion, right? For
I need clarification.
She needs clarification.
Oh, okay,
We
go
have
ahead.
gone out and we got part of it in compliance per the inspector. That was the mowing and I think the weeds around the street drain. The vendor who went out, I sent a picture showing 2 bushes in the front of the home, which the inspector had sent to me, and my vendor came back with 52 bushes that need to be trimmed. I need to make sure I only trim what you all need trimmed and not every bush on this property.
Okay.
So we want to be in compliance, but I need clarification.
Okay. I'll have, if you'll have a seat, I'll have Inspector Stevens come up and give us a little more information on this property. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Board.
Good afternoon, Mr.
Bear with me
Stevens.
a moment to actually get it up here real quick. You guys had previously ruled on this, so I'll just go through some initial pictures real quick for 18 South Sears. This is one that we bought for basically the property being overgrown. As you can see out front there, the bushes were overgrown up in front of the windows, and this is also the one that had down through the storm drains and the sidewalk that was completely overgrown with grass. As the lady back here alluded to, she had been in contact with me and working on getting the property in shape, and if we fast forward basically all the way to this morning, most of it has been taken care of, except for the bushes directly in front of the house, which is part of the initial citation. But as you can see, as we go down here, they've cleared up the sidewalk and the storm drain. It's just we still have these bushes here in the front that need to be trimmed. I'm not sure what her landscaper's telling her about 50-some bushes, but the original thing that she was cited for was the overgrowth of these bushes, the sidewalk, and all of the right-of-way maintenance right there through the storm drain.
Okay.
So if she can get those taken care of, as far as I'm concerned, we would be good to go at that point.
And that's mainly for egress into and out of the house,
Yes.
in case of emergency, right?
Is there any time frame that you would like?
Well,
Okay.
I would be fine with 30 days to get them to come into compliance on that.
Okay, thank you, Inspector Stevens.
I want to ask her if she's clarified.
Okay. Are you clear on what you want to come back to the podium, please?
Just one question.
Are you clear on what they're asking as far as?
Palm tree need to be trimmed that's in that picture, or just literally the 2 bushes in front of the house?
That's
Inspector Stevens?
Well, looking at that picture right there, it does have looks like some dead palms coming off of it. I'm not an arborist, but you may want to have someone look at it as to it has a lean, so I don't know if it's a healthy tree or not, but that might be something you might want to take into consideration to have looked at.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Can I have a motion,
We
please?
will get those in compliance within 30
Okay,
days.
thank you.
I move to accept the affidavit of noncompliance and issue an order that imposes fines and states if fines and fees remain unpaid 3 months after such lien is filed, the city is authorized to foreclose or collect to settle such lien.
Have a second.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
So there's an extension that was granted. Do you want to just continue this affidavit of noncompliance to the next meeting?
You want to do that? Okay. Can I have a motion to extend it?
That was my question as well.
Okay.
Okay.
I make a motion that we extend the affidavit of noncompliance, deal with it at the next meeting.
Okay. You have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Motion carries. Did you understand what we're going to do? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Board, item 5.3 has been withdrawn.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I got that. I
All right.
understand that.
Did Ms. Mulder have a question? I thought she had a question. No, I guess not.
Okay, 5.3, case 25-23 has been withdrawn. We will move on to nuisance abatement lien filings. Agenda number 7.1, case 64-23, accept the nuisance abatement lien for respondents Philof T. Gotch at 1252 South San Remo Avenue for inoperative vehicle and issue an order with the compliance deadline and authorize the city to mitigate the violation if compliance is not met. Inspector Jensen?
Good afternoon again. Dave Jensen, Co-Compliance Inspector with the City of Clearwater. This is for 1252 San Remo, case number 64-23. It's going to be for an in-op vehicle, just the one violation. These are the dates of the notices. The updated notice, as this was scheduled for last month, was given and posted to the property. This is the vehicle in question. There were two vehicles on the property. A caretaker did manage to get one of the vehicles taken care of. This one, she's not able to get taken care of. The occupant of this property is currently in jail and is likely not coming back out. So this woman has been given charge of the property and another one to take care of. The actual owner is the occupant that is in jail. It was his mother. She just was deceased last year, so we don't have any direct contact to the property except for this caretaker. There was a plate on the vehicle that has since been removed. When I sent my notices out, I did send them to the last known address for the now deceased property owner. I sent them to the address for what we did have for the license plate that was on the vehicle. I've not heard anything from anyone except for the woman that's taking care of the property. As you can see, this started back in 6/9. The vehicle's sitting there. Plate's gone off at that point. The tires on the passenger side, they're buried down in the ground. It's hard to tell, but they are flat. Again, there's no plate on the vehicle. This whole side's been duct taped shut. So the woman that's in charge of the property has been trying to figure out a way to get off the property. She's had no luck at all either. So
We can help her with that.
and so this is a picture again from this month, and this was just yesterday. Again, vehicle's still there. In-op, no plate. So we're just, again, updated notices of the hearing dates. So compliance can be met by removing the vehicle from the property, storing it in the garage, or bringing the vehicle to legal roadworthy status. Requesting compliance 5 days after the board renders its order.
Thank you.
All right, got a motion.
I move to enter an order finding the respondent in violation of code and requiring the respondent to correct the violations within 5 days of the board's written order. If the respondent does not comply within the time specified, the city may take all reasonable actions, including entry onto the property, to abate and maintain the nuisance and charge the respondent with a reasonable cost which will become a lien on the property. If costs, fines, and fees remain unpaid 3 months after such lien is filed, the city is authorized to foreclose, collect, or settle such lien.
Can I ask a question? Sure. You may not know the answer, the attorney may know it. The woman that has the property right now does not own the vehicle, am I correct?
Correct, yeah.
So does she have the ability to just call somebody to have it removed? Is that, can she just have a tow truck driver?
That is one of her concerns about being trying to get the properties taken care of. She has been dealing with this property and another in squatters in both properties. She's gotten the squatters out of both of these properties. However, she's not really comfortable calling somebody on that property to move that vehicle where she sits.
That kind of presents a problem, though, doesn't it, for her? I mean, is it legal to do that?
She wouldn't be the one doing it, we would.
We are.
We're going to have the city
Oh,
come
okay,
take it.
that's right. Excuse me.
So, I mean, at this point, it's almost as if somebody just drove onto your property, took their plate off, and left their car there. So.
Okay.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item number 7.4 on our agenda case, well, actually 7.2 and 7.3 have been withdrawn. Item 7.4, case 72-23, accept the nuisance abatement lien for respondents Lowell Kelly at 1445 Cleveland Street for inoperative vehicle and issue an order with the compliance deadline and authorize the city to mitigate the violation if compliance is not met. Inspector Stevens?
Good afternoon again, Board. John Stevens, Code Compliance Inspector for the City of Clearwater. This is going to be case number 72-23, reference 1445 Cleveland Street. We have one violation here for storage of an inoperable vehicle on private property. Notice of violation was mailed and posted out on April 27th of this year with a compliance date of May 27th. The certified mail came back as unclaimed, but a physical posting was done on the property on that day as well. This is the actual date of violation. As you can see, there was no front tag on that vehicle, even though the tires are inflated. There's not a front tag, and there's not a rear tag, which by our code in the city, that qualifies as an inoperable vehicle because you have to have a valid license plate displayed on the vehicle. That's the actual physical posting itself on that date. Here's on May 30th, which was a couple days after the compliance date, and you can see still no front tag and no rear tag.
Can I ask a question? What was that on the windshield?
They put a piece of plywood out there and actually took a marker and wrote "for sale" on it. And then the first time it rained, it disappeared. So, and then this is today. You can see the vehicle is still there. Again, no front tag, no valid rear tag. So obviously compliance could be met for this case by them either obtaining and displaying a valid license plate on the vehicle or removing the vehicle from the property.
Have you had any communication from the?
Initially, way back several months ago on a different subject, tried to talk with this gentleman and did not really get anywhere with him. But on this particular case, no, I have not.
I move to enter an order finding the respondent in violation of code and requiring the respondent to correct the violation within 5 days of the board's written order. If the respondent does not comply within the time specified, the city may take all reasonable actions, including entry onto the property to abate and maintain the nuisance and charge the respondent with all reasonable costs, which will become a lien on the property. If costs, fines, and fees remain unpaid 3 months after such lien is filed, the city is authorized to foreclose, collect, or settle such lien.
Need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there anything else we have today? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.